Patreon, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X. Y'all doing all right? Good. Listen, I'm on vacation, and this is part 3 of my whole tithing discussion pop-up videos. I just shot a video on the oil man, I'm calling it, and I'm wearing the same outfit. So it's not that I only have one suit. It's just that I'm shooting videos while I'm sitting here, and so you can like me or you don't. It's not about my clothes. It's about the words that come out of my mouth. Listen, you all. We fight so much over this whole tithing thing, and I've done series, master classes, and shows and pop-up shows on tithing. I know I can't convince everybody, but I keep doing this because I know that many are being convinced. I can't convince everybody, but every time I do these, people are convicted in their hearts that they realize that they are pushing their families into more poverty. You're like, huh? How's that possible? By paying a tithe? Yes, there's a lot of people who can't afford to pay a tithe, and unfortunately, the church is telling those who can't afford to pay a tithe that you can afford to pay, or you cannot afford not to pay a tithe. I've heard that all my life. When in fact, if you read the scriptures contextually, that you see that the poor did not tithe. As a matter of fact, the poor received the tithe. Deuteronomy 26:12. The poor received the tithe. It's in two places. All right. So it didn't just go to the Levites. It went to the Levites, and the Levites gave a percentage of their tithe to the priests. And that was a way to keep them because the Levites didn't have an inheritance. They didn't have land. They couldn't own it. Those who are receiving tithes today is breaking the whole ceremonial aspect of it. See, this is a ceremonial thing. The ceremonial way of life in the Old Testament has been discontinued by the Jews today. They do a couple of little ceremonies here and there, but to the most of the part, they don't even do it anymore because they have a nationalistic system now, not a monarchy. So they don't do the ceremony part. Who does it? We do. And then when we do it, we're doing it wrong because the Jews did not pay a monetary tithe. They paid uh, um, an agricultural tithe. This is why when Jesus mentioned it, he said sugar and cumin and spices and all these food items. And this is why when Malachi said it, he said meat, so that there might be meat. You all said, no, that is provision, and that is no. This is why I wish that some of you pastors, the members sent you to school, Bible college, seminary, or somebody's school to help you break down how to read the scriptures, because for generations you all been misleading them, and the Catholic Church only allowed the priest to interpret what the scripture says, so the people couldn't understand it. It's bad enough it was written in Latin, so only the priest could really speak it. They were the ones who would, so that's why they would go to the priest for everything, including their sins. And they would say, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. And then they would say, what have you done, my daughter? What have you done, my son? Y'all like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's a silly system. You all are doing that today. You didn't even realize it. There's so much money in the Bible. Money. So there's no need for us to have to transfer tithe food to money. Even while Jesus was on the earth, the reason why he didn't say pay it, you're supposed to pay a tithe, and he never mentioned money, because there was plenty money. You want me to prove it to you? For those of you who keep saying, well, that was their bartering style was agriculture. Yes, and it was also money. We still barter agriculturally as well as money too. Here in the world we live in now, you think that how do you think you get food on your table? Huh? How do you think you get food on your table? Somebody bartered agriculturally. So the reason why we know there was money, because he dealt with the disciples and the Pharisees by using money. Who sold Jesus? For how much did they sell him? Hmm? How much did his disciples sell him for? Cattle? Turtle doves? Hmm? Hmm? Pigeons? When they had to pay the temple tax, Jesus had to pay a tax. He says, I shouldn't have to do it. This is my father's house. He said, but go ahead and pay it. So they paid it. How'd they pay it? Hmm? Apples? Oranges? Hmm? Kumquats? Bananas? Huh? And taxes. What about taxes? How'd they pay their taxes? Hmm? When they say we shouldn't have to, and Jesus says, whose signet? Whose face is that on that coin? They said Caesar's. So he said, now go over there and get a turtle dove and pay your tax. No. He said, render to Caesar what's in your hand. Caesar. And then there was something in the fish's mouth. What was in the fish's mouth? Hmm? Hmm? Berries? Hmm? Cherries? Strawberries? Huh? A coin. You know why? And then the most famous of all, the widow. The widow gave everything she had. Was it a head of cabbage? Hmm. What was it? Was it a mango? No. It was a mite. Jesus mentioned the talents that was given out to the three. What were the talents? Come on, people. You all push so much into your theology to make sense. Here's why. Like me, you were born and raised in a culture of fear, coupled with a little superstition, trying to obey a ceremonial law that the Jews don't even do. And you brought it to the New Testament church, which is who you are, the dispensation of grace. And it's you are afraid not to do it because your grandmother told you, and her grandmama told her, this is how you're supposed to do it, or God is going to beat you up, curse you, your car going to explode, you have holes in your bags. Y'all heard it all. Y'all heard it all. Y'all heard it all. Didn't you? Yes. And you're still hearing it today. But yet, if you ask any tithe payer, do you have any room to receive? You have no room, that is. Do you have no room to receive riches? Not a one can tell you. Not one person will tell you that there's no more room in my coffers for not $1 more. There's no more room in my bank account for not one more dollar. Now that's sad, ain't it? Here's the statistic. Only about 5 to 6% of people tithe. That's it. Question. 95% of all American Christians don't tithe? Yet this is one of the biggest fights we have. Who's fighting? The 5% is fighting. It's the 5% fighting. And we just got into that fight for some reason. Here I am, joining into that fight. 95% of Christians don't tithe. You can do a Google search. Sometimes you'll see 5%, 6%. You see sometimes up to 8%. That's a small number. So then y'all ask the question, how do the church survive without tithe? If I come a little closer, y'all gonna see the boogers in my nose. How was the church tithing with 5%? Surviving. How was the church surviving with 5% tithe payers? Huh? How are these mega churches surviving with 5% tithe? Fear, culture, sprinkled with a little bit of superstition. And this is why you're down today. You're fighting. A lady said to me on my Facebook page, I make $160,000 a year, and I have savings, and I also have investments, and I tithe. I said, that's beautiful. And guess what? I'm debt free. And My college tuition is paid for. What is the difference between you and I? I don't tithe. Haven't tithed in 25 years. You do. And all you're making is $160,000 a year? That's not supposed to happen. Not supposed to happen. You're supposed to be so rich that based off of how we have interpreted the scriptures, pressed down, shaken together, running over, men give to your bosom, have no room to receive, and all this stuff, and he will destroy the devourer. I mean, all the words we use when it is natural, it is literal, it is agricultural in Malachi, but yet we took it and made it spiritual. If you're going to transfer that stuff over to what y'all doing today, you cannot go back to your church for help. Why? Your church is going to tell you we don't have it. How? No bank will ever tell you we can't offer you a loan because we don't have enough in this bank. Even those small neighborhood banks, they will never turn you down for a loan because they have no money. They'll only turn you down because your credit is shot or they're racist. You have no collateral. But they will never turn you down. Matter of fact, the more you ask for, if you qualify, they will give you because they know they can make more money by giving you more. They don't make no money on no $500 personal loans. They don't make no money. No bank would turn you down. So, what's in your wallet? So the problem I see here is fear and cognitive dissonance. You don't know how this works. And you need to sit your pastor down and have a meeting with the church and you all talk about it. Ask him questions about tithing and tell him to go to the text. And then challenge him on the things that I said today and see where he is. Giving to your church is a good thing. I attend church every Sunday faithfully. I am the most faithful man at church. I'm the first one at church outside of the sound man and woman and the person who runs our live feeds, what have you. They're there first. The janitors are the ones who service the church because the snow comes and they have to be there sometimes the night before. Outside of them, I'm the first dude to walk into church. Me. I understand the importance of keeping that place heated. At the time of this recording, it's 8 degrees in Chicago. You understand? The place needs to be heated. And in the summertime, when it's 100 degrees outside, it needs the air conditioning to work. And if you want to hear the worship, you need those lights to work. You need electricity. And you need to raise extra just in case a meteorite come in through the ceiling and got a hole in the ceiling. Now you got to... So giving money to your church is important. Listen, you can't go nowhere in the country and has not been money exchanged. If you go to a bar, money's coming out of your pocket. If you go to the library, you've already paid for it through your taxes. You go walk into the police station, taxes. If you go to the courthouse, taxes. You send your kids to school, taxes, especially if you own a home. The taxes from the home funds the school. At least I believe it's in, hopefully it does. I know in my area it does. If your parish or your local has allocated that money properly, as that TARP or something. I can't think of no place. Obviously, when you go to the grocery store, it's only open because of you. You can't walk into any public building and it did not require money from the citizens. Hospitals. If it's a state-run hospital, you paid for it. If it's a private-run hospital, you might have paid for it. You're like, how? Because your insurance policy, Aetna, HMOs, and Blue Cross Blue Shield, all these, there's somebody in that hospital that's got the same insurance you have. You have put into the pot. That's how those insurance companies can afford to pay for the service, because there's so many people in the pot and you one of them, and because of your monies among the pot, even the private hospitals stay open because of your money. You can't walk into a car dealership. I mean, you can't go to nowhere, almost private or public, and then you didn't have your financial hand in it. And you never fuss in the courthouse, in the hospitals, in the grocery stores, in the libraries, in the schoolhouse. You never fuss and say, who paying for this? Who paying for this? That's a shame y'all giving all this money to this place. It's going into the pockets of these people who were the teachers getting paid and all this stuff. You just never say anything until you walk into a church and all of a sudden you want everything free. As if it's owed to you. It's owed to you. And typically it comes from people who don't attend church. And many who don't attend church was hurt at church. That's why you coined the phrase church hurt. And every building I just mentioned, you've been hurt in it at some point, especially the hospital, especially the court. Okay? You've been hurt. But you never put hurt behind the name of the building until you go to church, which you don't go to. You bring church to a building. But I'm going to use it interchangeably for the sake of arguing. That's the only place I know where people cannot stand, especially those who don't go, because they're saying, you're doing too much. And you know what? In many cases, they're correct. But as an intelligent man as I am, I attend church so that I can mostly give of myself more so than receive, because of my calling. Others, they come there to receive. Unfortunately, they can't come there to receive any money. Even though the tithing system was set up a couple years, or the third year, I believe, is that it's supposed to go to the poor and the widows and the orphans and the strangers. But nobody's tithe that's part of a church culture goes to those people. They'll say, no, it belongs to God. And they only borrow what they want to borrow, and they're done. And if the tithe is going to any of the minister or the pastor or what have you, that's out of order too. You can't find nowhere in the text, that justifies what y'all are doing to the tithe. If the tithe is coming in there to pay for the bills, that is wrong. There is no textual background for tithe paying for bills. God says you robbed me in tithes and offerings. It was the offerings that took care of the temple. The tithe went into somebody's belly. Do you understand? Like me, I used to see that verse, and I would hear from those men and women from down through the years who translated it the way you all are. And I could not see it. My eyes were so blind, like you all, that I saw, even though I saw the spelling, MEAT, I saw like you all did. And it did not matter, because I transferred it over to where you all told me to transfer it over to. And then one day I became a Berean. I took that thing home and opened up different translations to find out what does it mean. And the reason why I didn't open up earlier in my life, because y'all told me that the King James Bible is the only right Bible to use, even though it only came around 1611. Paul read from the King James. Moses read from the King James. So, You people who are part of the 5% who's fighting, continue to fight. You won't stop until God helps you. You all who don't like church, so you talk about church, listen, let me adjure you, help you out. The church raised you, and I'm sorry for whatever happened to you while you were being raised by the church. Manipulated, witchcraft, Jezebelian, Ahab spirit, all kinds of spirits. Competitions, stealing positions, not using you, knowing that you've been called, jealousy spirit, all that stuff that happened to you, we're sorry. And I can only apologize because it sounds good, but I can't apologize for them. They'd have to come to you. Let the people worship inside of a building. There's nothing wrong with it. Those of us who do go to church know that that ain't where God is. He's wherever we are. Where there's 2 or 3 gathered. He says, I'd be in the midst. The interpretation of that, before you all start commenting negatively, is about disputes. Come on, you're talking to Sirwalterj. I don't just say stuff and not know. Yes. But he still shows up even though it's about disputes. So if he comes together 2 or 3 for disputes, you don't think he's not going to come together and worship too? So let the saints, the ecclesia, come together in one place where you might have been hurt, and let them worship together. You understand? Like how you do when you go see Gladys Knight and the One Pip, when you go see Jay-Z, and when you go want to see Cat Williams, or have you at whatever theater, you go there and have a great time. Sinbad is over there. You go and see him. Like you go to the White Sox Park, the Bulls Stadium, when you go to the Bears Stadium, you have a great time, right? When you go to a little jazz club, Christians go to all that stuff, all right? You go there and you don't complain, you have such a great time, and they gather, right? Let the saints gather on a Saturday, some churches do, and on a Sunday, and let them worship together. Because to them, that is their way of touching and agreeing, physical touch, and embracing one another, seeing each other eye to eye, listening audibly to each other's voices. We're in the room, we're sitting on the same bench. Those things encourage people, like it encourages you when you want to go to the theater. You don't want to see that movie on Netflix. You literally get in the car, drive to the theater, pay the ticket, buy popcorn to sit in a theater, in a crowd theater, because you want to hear the crowd. You typically want to go to a sporting event. I went to go see the Bulls. For my first time going to the Bulls Stadium was I felt like I was a 18, 17, 16-year-old kid, because it was my first time going to a ball game, and there's nothing like being in the stadium. Seeing the Bulls play on TV was okay, but when I went into that stadium that Michael Jordan built, Michael had stopped playing years by the time I got there. It did not matter. That Benny the Bull had me laughing so hard with his little tricks and antics, and to see the halftime show and to see those young men who typically on the street banging on those 5-gallon, 10-gallon buckets. They use them, for halftime, and the Jesse tumblers, and see the game and the big score and hearing the crowd roar. There's nothing like being at a stadium to feel like you're part of something. Guess what? People who go to church feel the same way. And we who are intelligent know that God is at home. When I woke up this morning, I woke up to God. You understand? And I prayed to God. I read the scriptures at home. God lives in my house. He lives in me, and I bring him everywhere. So for those who believe that's the only place you can find him on Sunday, pray for them. Meanwhile, us who are intelligent, who meet on Sunday, we enjoy it. It's wonderful camaraderie. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. It is. And it's okay to raise money to keep the lights on because we built that place. You get it? You see where I'm going now, right? And it's okay that the pastor has a salary because the scripture backs that up. Muzzle not the ox, but tread out the corn. And he who labors in the word should be paid well in the word. So we pay him. Not to where it hurts. Paul says don't do it. If it's going to hurt, don't do it. So that also does not justify a man not wanting to work so that the church can take care of him. We're not even talking about them people either. Those are lazy men. No. But if the church want to retire their pastor from his 9 to 5 and have him to work fully in the church, and he agree and they agree, leave them alone. Every pastor's not a shyster driving a Cadillac, taking all the tithe money and living in mansions. I served with Bishop Carlos Moody for years, and there were times that man was sitting in the pulpit and didn't have money. And he was the president of the foreign missions department of the Church of God in Christ, which claims to be 6 million strong. He was the president. But yet, some days he couldn't afford to fly first class when he would travel around the world on missions trips. Couldn't afford it. So for you all who's saying these pastors are riding around living like luxury, that was not Carlos Moody Sr. And this is why I decided to serve with him. Notice I keep saying with him. I decided to serve with him. And I wanted to glean from his humility. And I did. I had many talks, ate in his home, drove in his car, been in his office, had private meetings, things he said to me that he didn't say. I know for a fact he didn't tell a whole lot of people. He said stuff to me that I can never repeat to you all. That was between he and I. Stuff that he went through I didn't know. Blew me away. And then I understood why he was so humble. Humble. So when someone inbox me, emails me, send me private messages and say, thank you for your humility. There's people out there who think I'm not humble because they'll see a show on Jakes or Celestial or William Murphy, and they hear how I would bang on the table and say y'all make my butt itch and how I would rebuke you all, blah blah blah. They'll see those shows there, and they're new to me, and they don't see my body of work where I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. There's at least it's over 1,000 or so videos on YouTube alone of my body of work. Body of work. And they all are saying the same thing about me. What does that do for me? It encourages me to continue. I know what God has made me. I can be stern, yet I can be very humble. I'm always humble, even in my sternness, because after I get through beating you up, then I come back and say, brothers, sisters, let us reason together. And I bow my head and sometimes I cry. Why? That Carlos Moody man, I seen him do that, just weep because he had to correct someone. I said, God, that's that man right there. I'm going to be like that. And God says, you was like that before you met the man. Listen to what people have always said about you. But they take that meekness as weakness, and they think they can just do whatever they want to. They've taken advantage of me. I've lost a lot of money. I've lost positions. I've lost opportunities because they took advantage of it. It doesn't have it that much anymore now because I'm a little more stern. So this is just my pep talk. I'm only doing this because I put up a 1-minute video on pastors who are CEOs and COOs of a corporation, they got to pay the bills. It is their jobs, especially if they're Baptists. They were hired by the deacon board, by the trustees, and they have to pay the bills. And so they have to make sure that the tithe, especially, is up, stays that way, never drop. That's why they will always say, I wish that all of the members would tithe, that this would be a 100% tithe church. Notice that. Jamal Bryant played at his church on Sunday a Cat Williams video with Club Shay Shay. What part did he play? He played the part where Cat Williams saying he tithe in a sense to these cities when they bring him in, and he gives 10% back to the poor and blah blah blah. And Jamal looked at that as an opportunity to prove how tithing is this, and that he wished that the whole church would do it. Pastors are CEOs, and their job is to keep the people emotionally happy by giving a good sermon and making sure you bring that money in so that the deacons, the trustee board, and the finance room can pay those bills. Do you understand? If that church was debt free, they would not be hounding y'all for tithes. They'd be asking for it, but they won't spend a whole lot of time because they're good. I'm telling you what I know. I lived in South Dakota where the churches that were debt free, the Lutheran, Presbyterian, the Catholic churches, they didn't talk about that. They didn't even raise offerings. They just said, go online. Let's get back to Hail Mary, Mother Jesus, blessed be the one. I went to the Pentecostal street, the church across the street, and they spent 20, 30 minutes on jumping people for giving so they could give. $100 line, $50 line, $20 line. This is my tithe. It is what I say it is. And they have another offering for envelope for offering. They embarrass people by making them stand up, standing in that long line. Other people who don't have the money, they sitting there wondering, oh man. And then so those people don't come to church until they know the offering is over, or they get up and walk out before the offering time because they don't want to be embarrassed again. This is the games that poor churches play. But Paul said, collect the offering, and I'm going to come and pick it up, because there is another church, the Macedonian church. They're poor. Or the Church of Jerusalem, one of them. They're poor. And I'm going to pick it up from you and take it over to them. You might need it one day. That's what collecting offerings was all about. They didn't worry about having buildings and building buildings. You know why? Because they met in homes. How often? The Bible says they had communion every day. Every day. They met in Mary's home and others' homes. And they were not in the home saying, we're going to collect this money so we can build a temple for God, a church for God, a cathedral for God, a parish for God, or whatever. No. They were happy just. And then when persecution hit town, they went underground. That's why they was digging up. They have been digging up graves, holes, and architectural digs, and they've been finding crosses underground and relics and proof that Christians were under here, hiding from persecution. The historicity of all of this can be found if you just be a good Berean, right? So, again, I must be cordial because I'm going to close this last time. You don't have to pay a tithe to your church. You don't have to. Because no scripture says that you do. But if you are a member of your church and you know it needs to stay afloat, pitch in and just give some money. Because you all are calling it a tithe. It's not a tithe. Even though tithe means 10th part. Tithe don't mean money. Tithe don't mean food. It just means a 10th part of. So if you're going to tithe a 10th part of your monies, keep doing it, and it's helping the church stay afloat. But if you're doing it because of fear, culture coming together, then you're trying to please the gods or the God because you're afraid. And that's not love. That is anti-scripture. That is compulsion. And guess what? He can't receive it when it's given grudgingly. So now you're coming after us for not giving. But you should be coming after yourself for giving poorly, like communion. You're taking it unworthily, where you are collecting and giving a tithe unworthily because it has been annulled, disallowed. It's over. It's a ceremonial thing that ended. The Jews don't even do it, and it was implemented for them. Yes, Abe tithe to Melchizedek. Absolutely. I see your comments. He did. That was a culture. That was not the law. You don't do any other culture when it comes to Abe, but you do that one. Why? To justify your madness. And number two, what did Abe do with the rest? He didn't keep it. He gave the 90% away to the king of Sodom, a pagan god. You can't tithe the way Abraham did, or you could not survive. It would be like getting your $1,000 check, taking 10%, $100, giving it to the church, and taking $900 and giving it away to sinners. So what do you have left? Nothing, right? You can't tithe that way. So where else do we go? To justify it? You can't go nowhere to justify it. Nowhere. Now what? Keep giving to your church like you've been giving so that the church can have its needs, and then you can do something else. Meanwhile, go to patreon.com, the Sirwalterj Jones Show, and sign up for the finance room. It's only $5 a month. And if you're crying over that, you really don't care. You really don't care. I've got professionals coming in this month to show us how to get out of debt, how to balance your monies, how to invest in the stock market. I got my brother Larry from Stock Up. He's got 600,000 subscribers, and he's a millionaire. I think if anybody know how to invest, he does. He'll be on the show throughout January. I'll be showing you things that I did to get out of debt in the finance room. It's only $5. And you all who are already in the upper room, the $12, you already got it for free. Well, it's an add-on. You already got it. I added it on a couple of weeks ago. I added it on. So you got the piano room, the upper room, the finance room. It's all there for you. All right? So if y'all think that I'm taking this as an opportunity to make money on this, yeah. The labor is worthy of his hire. And the Lord told me it's there. I don't care what y'all say about me making money. Because on YouTube, I have been doing this for 10 years for free. 10 years. You have lived off of me for over 10 years. The Sirwalterj Jones Show is only 10 years, but the Ask the Elder is a couple of years more than that. You all have lived off of my information. I have not browbeat you, didn't ask you for no money, and you've been living off of me, my information. So now, in 2024, it ain't that you have to pay for it. I'm still going to go on YouTube and Facebook and still give you all of the information God has given me. But if you want some private, deep study and some some little tactics and systems that I use and some insights that I'm getting from the Moody Bible Institute and all that stuff. I'm not giving that away for free. Not on YouTube. No. Because many of y'all in Larry Reed's room, you're paying $12 and you ain't having no problem because he's giving you all kind of salacious stuff. And you don't complain. You all are paying for Netflix, Prime, Paramount, Disney Plus, Hulu, Tubi. Is that free? I don't know. Y'all paying for all that stuff, and you don't even complain, and you don't even watch all of it. So many of it you're wasting money every month. Don't complain. But as soon as I say $5, you know what that is? It's cognitive dissonance. It's culture mixed with what, y'all? This is a test. What's culture mixed with? I keep saying it. You're afraid. And when you don't like a man, you try to discredit him. And then go and do all of the things that you could be doing to help me help you. You won't do it because it's me, so you go and give it to other people. You know how many people who have canceled me, who said, now you charge too much for this, and you charge too much for that. And then I said, I charge that because I'm just that good. I can get it done efficiently and fast, and you're going to get your money's worth. No, you're too high. And then when they go out there and they can't find nobody else, they'll finally get somebody who charged them double what I asked them for. They'll always pay more. And then the work won't be as good. That is the way you black people operate. You black people in the crab in the barrel, y'all this competitive spirit is gonna kill you. So this woman who was making $160,000, who's got savings and an investment policy, God bless you. She says to me, when I said, what's the difference between you and me? I'm debt free and my college tuition is paid for. What's the difference between me and you? She says, in the comment, she says, but there's more. And then I asked her, what's the more? That was 2 days ago. I'm yet to hear back from her. Why? Because she's a tithe thumper. And she needed me to know there's more. There is no more. You're lazy. You put your money in a church on Sunday morning, calling a tithe, and you sit on your behind Monday through Saturday waiting on all these blessings to come. Meanwhile, the world is moving on without you. They got good credit, they got great savings, and then when they get old, they retire and they got all this money they can live off of. You've been tithing forever, and guess what? When it's time to retire, you can't pull from those tithing investments. You can't. You can't. Because you can't tie what you've received by giving a tithe. You can't do it. Look at the show I did about the oil man. You can't tie sickness and death to a person who took communion unworthily. My mother died. Cancer ripped her body apart and bones fell off. The flesh fell off her bones. And she died. Was it because she wasn't tithing? Because she was a faithful tither, my mother. Was it because she was taking communion unworthily? My mother was saved. She loved God and she took communion faithfully. But cancer ripped her body apart. What is your excuse there? So this man says that a diabolical something is coming. You got to go to the other show called The Oil Man. He says some diabolical is coming. You got to put oil everywhere. So this thing is going to come. Well, anything that comes right now, you're all going to point it to what he said, even though he didn't give you specifics. COVID came, and nobody got the warning prior to, other than those who were finding little videos of somebody says, no, here, he said it 2 years ago. And the analogies were so vague, and we've always got some kind of virus going to be hitting. Those people always stayed relevant, and it was among people who were only about this. The group was only about this small. Why would God give a message to you about something so vital that's going to kill thousands of people, yet millions of people will never hear it until it happens? This is really sad. Some of you have been giving a tithe for 20, 30 years, and you cannot do a reset. You can't count how much money you received from tithing. You can't, there's no way to prove it. There's no precedence. There's no legal precedence to what you've been doing for 20, 30 years. You can't tie it to it. And if you go to the court of law and have the nerve to tell the judge, the reason why I have these things is because I tithe, he's going to ask you for proof. And you can't show any proof other than your words. Because God says blah, 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 blah. That is not a proof. And if you're going to say God said it, go into the scriptures. And then if a good lawyer will go in there and eat you up and say, that's not even talking about you. But what does it do? It helps you, because Madir told me, Pastor told me, this is how it works. So I'll always be giving credit to me tithing, to me receiving an unexpected check in the mail. But when you do the math and look at all unexpected monies, you still paid a lot of money in tithe and only got just a few $100, maybe a couple $1,000 over a 30-year period. It still don't add up. And I don't know nobody who invests in anything with those kind of returns and continue to invest. No wise investor does that. Who does that? You do. And you will defend it on social media until you die. Because that's the power of cognitive dissonance. It's just that powerful. So you will always fight among the 5%ers until you die or until you wake up and see proof that you too was lied to. So keep supporting your church so that they might survive and pay those bills. All right? I'm going to give a little bit more of myself. I'm going to do whatever I can to keep the church alive. All right? But as far as manipulation is concerned, I'm smarter than that. I know when you're trying to put the banana in the tailpipe. I know it. And when I hear it, I put my money back in my pocket. You see? Because if you tell the people the truth, Pastor, they will give you more. If you tell them the truth, here's where the money is going. When you start cursing them and all this stuff, these wise people are wised up to it. That's why only 5% do it. And that's a shame, ain't it? Only 5% do it. But yet you spend 20% of your worship time talking about it when only 5% do it. What is the definition of insanity? All right. All right, y'all. It's been 50 minutes, 49 minutes, and I better stop while I'm ahead. I'm on vacation, like I said, with my children, my son and my grandson, Junior, and I'm having a wonderful time in fellowship with them. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I'm going to do more of it in 2024, spend more time with my son. And I can tell every time I come down here, he enjoys it. You can see it in his eyes. And you can see it in mine too. I love that boy. He's got my name. And I want him to have all of the things that he needs because his son is looking at him. He's watching his every move. And he's going to repeat. Wash, rinse, Junior, repeat. All right, y'all. Take care. Hey, subscribe to the channel if you like to. Hit the bell notifications. You know we're live. And go to patreon.com, The Sirwalterj Jones Show, and hang with us for the month of January. We got a lot of stuff dropping. Okay? Binge watch some of the old videos if you like. I love y'all. Take care of yourself. Now I got to see I'm going to edit this video while I'm out of town. I don't have all my toys. I love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it.